Here are the top 5 investment watches for 2024 and 2025. We're going to start with the most expensive and work our way down to the least expensive. Only one of these watches is brand new. The rest are going to be used or vintage, and we'll talk about that later in the video. So stay tuned. Here we go. First on our list is the Patek Philippe Nautilus, any reference that you can find brand new at MSRP. Now, this is a little bit different than the rest of the list, however, I do have my reasoning behind it. And it's because before COVID, before all the hype, you could you could walk into Rolex and buy whatever model, excluding the Daytona. You could walk into a Patek Philippe and you could buy a Royal Oak Jumbo. You didn't have to go through all these hoops. And the bottom line is, these companies are making more watches than they lead you to believe, and I think we're actually going backwards in time, and it's going to be easier to get a lot of these models. Now, with Patek Philippe, however, it has always been difficult to get these models, and it will always be difficult to get these models. We are not going to see a resurgence and go back in time. It's not going to be easier to get. It never will be. And that's why if you can land any Patek Philippe Nautilus at MSRP, it is a fantastic investment. I truly believe that in the next few years, if you walk into AP or Rolex, you're going to be able to get almost any model you want, excluding limited editions and all that. But I do believe we're going back to the past. You're going to be able to walk in and get your Royal Oak or your basic Submariner, and that's why none of those watches are going to be on my list for investments, because it's just they make a lot of them, and Patek Philippe does not. They barely make any watches per year, and every model is very, very limited. And if these watches have always been hyped, it's one of the number one watchmakers in the world. So that's why that is number one on our list. The Patek Philippe Nautilus, any model at MSRP, brand new. So let's go to number two. Number two on the list is the AP Royal Oak. However, it is not any reference. It's particularly the first few references from 1972 to the mid 70s. So you're really going to want to look for an A series to a D series, the first few batches. And my reasoning is because the AP Royal Oak is one of the most hyped watches of all time. Recently, a lot of celebrities have been wearing them like crazy. Values have been skyrocketing, and honestly, I think vintage is the way to go, because like I said before, yes, right now, if you could get one at MSRP, you're going to make some money. However, I believe in the next few years that's going to change. What's not going to change is the value of the original first few series, the A to the D series, and I truly believe it is a good value. They go for about 80 to 120 grand depending on scope of delivery. Yes, that is a lot of money. However, I don't see that changing anytime soon, and I think that they are always going to be expensive, and they are going to continue to get more expensive. So that's why that is number two on our list. The third watch on our list is very interesting. It's not something that you would think of, and that is going to be the Blancpain 50 Fathoms, and not just any version. It is going to be the vintage versions from 1953. Now you could go with a civilian spec or you could go with a military spec. It really doesn't matter. It's going to run you 40, 50, 60,000 in that range. And the reason I'm choosing this for 2024 and 2025 is, yes, the Swatch Group just introduced their version of the 50 Fathoms, kind of like the Moon Swatch. However, with the resurgence of the brand, with everybody loving dive watches and just the resurgence in vintage watches in itself, I think that the first dive watch from 1953 is a great watch to invest in. And again, I do not see these prices coming down anytime soon. My personal favorite version is the no radiation version, but again, you can get a lipstick, you could get a military spec, or whatever it may be. Anyway, an original vintage 50 Fathoms is number three on our list. Number 2 on the list, we're finally going to get into Rolex, and that is going to be the Rolex Coke GMT. This was first introduced in 1983, and it went all the way until 2007. So my reason for putting this on the list is because at Baselworld, people were expecting Rolex to officially discontinue the Pepsi and re-release the Coke. That did not happen. Instead, Tudor made their version of the Coke in bronze or something like that. And it let a lot of people down. They came out with the Bruce Wayne instead of the Coke, and you could really feel how people were disappointed with that. They really wanted the Coke. So I said, you know what? I think that Coke prices are going to continue to go up. I really do. And on top of that, being from 1983 to 2007, most of my viewers being 25 to 35, it's an unbelievable birth year watch. It's one of the best. So, again, another example of young people that are going to be buying these up, inflating the prices, and I just don't think that they're going to come down anytime soon. I mean, it'll run you about 9 to 12,000 again, depending scope of delivery, and it's just an unbelievable investment. You're not going to lose money. It's going to keep up with the pace of inflation and perhaps even beat the pace of inflation if Rolex does not introduce another version. Again, though, people love these vintage GMTs. They love vintage subs, and vintage is what 2024 and 2025 is all about. So again, number 2 on the list is the Rolex GMT. And honestly, again, they're running $9,000 to $12,000. Yes, it is expensive, but remember, these are investments. Investments are not cheap. If an investment is not going to be worth your while if it's only $500, $1,000, and you're only going to make $40, $50. It's just not. It's not that good of an investment at that point, in my personal opinion. Now, number 1 on the list is going to be something that most people will be able to afford. I don't mean most people as in, you know, everybody, but I mean most people in the hobby of watches. So we'll get to that in a second. But again, $9,000 to $12,000 for a vintage piece is really pretty reasonable, and I see them going up. So again, Rolex Coke GMT, number 2 on the list. Pick yourself one up because it's a great birth year watch. It really, really is. Let's get to number 1 on the list. Number 1 on the list is my all-time favorite watch. If you keep up with the channel, then you already know what it is, and that is the Omega Speedmaster. In particular, with the 861 movement that ran from 1968 all the way up until 1967. Yes, the watch barely changed for about 40 years, and you could pick one up between $3,000 all the way up to $8,000, depending on scope of delivery, condition, all that stuff. I mean, it is crazy the spread that these watches go. Obviously, if you pick up an older one, it's going to be more expensive than the newer one from 1997. But I think that this is, number 1, an unbelievable birth year watch if you are within that time frame of age. That's number 1. And number 2, the watch has so much history. So let's start with, everyone goes crazy for the 321 caliber, which, yes, is the caliber that went to the moon. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait, the moon landing was in 1969. The 861 was introduced in 1968. Why didn't the 861 go to the moon? And that's because NASA was testing the 321 movement for so long that by the time the 861 movement actually came out, they were already done with their testing. They already proved that the 321 was the one that was going to go to the moon. They weren't going to do the testing over again for this brand new movement. So that's essentially why the 861 didn't go to the moon. However, it was out and able to be put on your wrist before the launch to go to the moon. So really, really cool piece of history. There was overlap with the 321, which is also pretty cool. And again, they made the watch for so long, 1968 to 1997. If you could pick one up like I did with box, papers, original hang tag, and original receipt, I mean, you're doing well. And again, a birth year. Make it a birth year. Make it special. I'm sure most of my viewers were born between 1968 and 1997 anyway. If you were born after, then a moon watch is still a great investment. You could get a 1861 movement for less than $3,000 if you look hard enough. They're not typically posted for less than $3,000, but if you look hard enough, if you join Facebook groups and forums, you could get one for $2,600 all the way to $3,000, whatever it may be. So again, any Omega Speedmaster other than the new one is an unbelievable investment, but my particular favorite is the 861 movement, and that is our number one watch on the list, which is also the least expensive on the list. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. It really helps our channel grow. I want to keep making as much content for you guys as I can. We have officially launched our new website, which is called Loom Caliber. I thought it was a really cool play on words. So check out loomcaliber.com. And until next time, peace.